Well, although the federal government has some sort managed to ward off threats of strike with the suspension of the planned industrial action by the National Union of Electricity Employees, but with many challenges, many more challenges confronting the labor sector and labor generally in Nigeria. We have with us to discuss these issues the Minister of Labour and Employment, Dr. Ngige, joins us live from our Abuja studio. Thank you so much for joining us on the program this afternoon.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now, you're welcome. Good afternoon. And I'd like to begin with the statement which was made by the union official in Kano, saying, does it have to come to industrial actions and strikes before the government gives an ear to labor matters in the country? And I'd like you to respond to that. Should that be the case?
Well, it's funny that he's making such a statement. I hear people bandy and talk about rule of law, rule of law. The rule of law is not for government alone. It's even for the citizens too. There are set laws for people to apply in industrial relations. And all are encapsulated and in the Trade Dispute Act, T4, T5, 2004. And one of the conditionalities there is that before somebody on essential service, of which electricity workers are one, can proceed on an industrial action, you must notify first your employers, direct employers. And they have the onus is on them to convene a meeting with you. If the meeting fails, or if they fail to convene a meeting, you then approach the labor ministry. The labor minister is there. That's my work. You give us the ultimatum. And the Trade Dispute Act prescribes forms with which you can even do that. Apart from letter, you fill special forms called trade dispute forms and lodge in the ministry. These were not done. So they just had issues with the direct employer, which is the Ministry of Power, and the discos. By the way, the discos are mostly privatized. Government has just 40% in them, while the investors have 60%. So the man with the majority equity is the owner, so to say.
Right.
And dictates most of the things that happen there. So some of the problems are in the discos and in the gencos. That's the generating companies. Some are with government. The government side of the problem is where they say that some of the people that were severed when those parastatals were privatized, that a lot of them have not been paid off. And the statistics are there. It's only about 600 persons that their cases are outstanding. And out of those 600 cases, is work in progress. 400 have been captured and sent to the Accountant General of the Federation. Because what had happened is that all the money gathered from the sales of privatization were expended in terms of the severance benefits and other allowances that were due to the workers that had to leave those discos and gencos. That's what happened. So 98% of the money went in there. So those people that were not captured, it's a continuous thing. 400 of them have been captured now after the necessary documentation. That's the one that concerns government.
Right. Now,
shortfall in salary is something that is continuous and being addressed, and it's not even a governmental thing. It's with the discos.
Speaking of what is being addressed,
is with the discos.
Dr.
And these are the things we are addressing as a ministry.
If I may come in now, so apparently the head of the union, Mr. Joe Ajeru, is really concerned that, yes, an agreement has been signed, but they say this is not the first time agreements are signed and they're not adhered to, and Nigerians don't want to go through any more blackouts. So the question is, what is different this time around? Now that an agreement has been signed, the strike has been suspended.
The thing that is different,
what is different this time around?
Is that they have done what they're supposed to have done much earlier. This agreement is an in-house agreement. It's allowed in the trade dispute. They have to go to their direct employers, like I said before, and negotiate areas that are the thorny issues and then see how they can smoothen the rough edges. When they fail, then they have to come, the union has to come to me because the main use of formation of unions is to protect the workers, their welfare, and as well as protecting the union of employers. There's a union of employers. Yes, they are there too. So these have been done now. I have read through the agreement. And the agreement is still saying the same thing, work in progress. We monitor it together with you and then see that they're actualized. So I have not seen anything that is very new. But my initial investigation as Minister of Labor is that there is a power play between the Ngige, which is the National Union of Electricity Employee of Ajero and his group, and the Senior Staff Association of electricity workers, who are also domiciled there. There is a power struggle on who is senior and who is more potent in terms of affecting unionism there. And they have carried this on and inflicted the whole country with a power outage that have cost us billions of naira and loss of lives. It's unfair. They shouldn't do that, and I've told them so.
Right.
And my ministry will further investigate it. The unions are not only sacrosanct that we can't do anything to them. We will look at the issue, and if they are liable, I will tell them, I invoke the relevant sections of the Labour Act on that.
Right.
Yes.
That's interesting
the
because
preliminary investigation shows that this is a power play, and they cannot use power play to punish the entire nation.
Right.
And make us lose man hours, lose billions of naira, lose lives in hospitals that cannot, that their generators are not working. Now, many people don't know that some people were on life support.
Dr. Ngige,
and that the
would
hospitals,
have to...
in those hospitals, their generating sets were not working.
Right. We'll have to go on a break now, Dr. Ngige. But when we come back, if I may, when we come back, we'd like to look at the situation of labor as a whole in the country. There's a talk about the unemployment rate, what we're doing to reduce unemployment in the country, and the big issue, minimum wage and the consequential adjustment. Plus, we'll take a look at some politics as Edo APC set to be in another rumble as controversy trails planned rally to welcome defecting PDP chieftain Izeyamu to the APC fold. Details of this and much more right after the break. Do stay with us. Well, welcome back to the program. Let's continue with our conversation surrounding the politics and the policies of labor in Nigeria. And we still have with us the Minister of Labor and Employment, who joins us from our Abuja studio. Dr. Ngige, thank you for staying with us on the program. Now, before the break, we were going to talk about unemployment in the country. And I know we're still waiting for official figures, latest figures from the National Bureau of Statistics. But as we wait, there are fears that the unemployment figures in the country might actually increase from the 23.1% which we had in the previous one. And you have said in recent times that if we don't deal with unemployment, it might just consume us. In fact, this is what you said. You said, and I quote, "So we are on with our thinking caps. We are bringing everything we have on the table to see how we do it now." That was in September. This is December. And I'd like to ask, what are the different things you're doing? What creative ideas are you bringing to bear to reduce unemployment in the country?
Well, the major issue with our employment statistics is that that the economy is still very fragile. We can't boast. We can't say we're out of the woods with our economy. The area of the economy that we made some progress, and which is a very praiseworthy progress because that also has a direct influence on employment level, is the area of diversification of our economy. And the low-hanging fruit in this diversification is agriculture. So it is with agriculture that we have been able now to create more jobs, especially in the areas of rice production, sorghum, and other cash crops. That's the only way we have made some progress, and that's why we are now also breeding. So if our statistics come out for the last quarter, maybe it could just be a slight improvement. But we don't have to cheer. We have to do more. How do we do more? Well, how we shall do more is that, number one, that those in jobs are retained on those jobs. And this is one of the areas the ministry is focusing on. The oil and gas companies, we're encouraging them. We are making the conditions good for the workers and conditions good for the employers so that they also don't retrench. We have been able to contain that in the last 2 years. And we, as solidifying and making our case in that area to be more strengthened. The banking sector, we have also been intervening, so those on the job to be retained. We have had cases of some banks laying off, declaring redundancy against their declaration of humongous profits. And we are tackling those banks. We are saying you can't declare humongous profits here, and then on the other hand, you are laying off. Right. It doesn't add up. If anything, you should be employing more persons. Right. You should be employing more persons.
So,
and giving them decent job, not even making them contract or casualized staff. So we are using all those areas to see how we can retain people on their job.
All right. So from the ones, just one moment, from the ones that have jobs or that don't have jobs concerning unemployment, let's go to the ones that have jobs and the talk about minimum wage. There's been, the consequential adjustment issue, and we understand that states, labor unions across states are getting ready for a showdown. From where we stand right now, how far have we gone to implementing this consequential adjustment at the federal level and across states?
I do not envisage a big showdown because we have done what we need to do as a federal government. Labor is on the exclusive legislative list. It's item 34 of the second schedule. So issue of consequence of minimum wage also fall under the same item 34. So we have done what we have to do as federal government. We have fixed the new law. The president graciously signed it into a law, an act, April 18 of this year. And as a federal government, we said that minimum wage should take effect from the day the law was signed, that the day the new law was born. And that is what it is. We've communicated that to states. Secondly, it has consequential adjustment because when you move the man who was earning 18,000 to start earning 30,000, you have impinged on the other people's salary grade level because the man on 18,000 was the man on grade level 1, step 1. So if you move him to 30,000, you have gone into people on grade level 6, right, and thereabouts 7. So those people have to also to be pushed up. That is what we mean by saying consequential adjustment. Right. You have to push them up so that they maintain the seniority with the last man. So we have done the table for federal government side, and we have put it into effect. Federal Executive Council has approved it. But we are running a federation. As per the law, on 18,000 moving to 30,000, that is where the issue of the law stops. Okay. The consequential adjustment have to be negotiated.
Dr. Ngige, I guess we have to also stop here.
Collective bargaining agreement.
I understand. Now, Dr. Ngige, I'm afraid...
now the template of what the federal government have done, and we expect them to take a cue from it.
All right.
And then, depending on the state in question, the resources available to them, the peculiarities of that particular state, they have to negotiate with their joint negotiating council of states and fix their consequential adjustments.
All right. I think that's a great place to leave
Some
it.
states have done so.
We understand that, but we'd like to thank you so much for sharing your thoughts.
And others have done so.
Dr. Ngige, thank you so much for your time this afternoon, and we wish you the very best with the review of labor laws in the country. We hope to hear from you about that. But thank you so much for your time this afternoon. We've been speaking with the Minister for Labor and Employment in the country, Dr. Chris Ngige.